Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. This is the Gaming Enforcement Agency, episode 97. Unfortunately, Unky Dunky is offline this evening. That second slot shall remain empty. However, third slotting it as always, Bully, sir. Welcome to another episode.
Thanks for having me. And I must say, I know we're missing Unky this week, but we seem to be almost on time. So I'm going to start blaming him for our delays in getting the show live and up and running. It falls squarely at his feet, I think.
Evidence proves that everyone thought it was me. Clearly, it's Unky's fault. We are on duty. If I can find a button. Working beautifully. So this evening we have 3 games for games interrogation and deliberation. Then it's off to the newsroom. Bully, how many newsroom doors did you kick in this evening?
We've got a few to kick in, 4 as we round the bend. And if we do have Sean Games in, I will.
Hey, Sean.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but if he is there, we are going to go through the new releases for you as well. And we've got a little added bonus for you as we do.
Woo! Excellent, exciting stuff coming up. Speaking of that, their YouTube chat, if you happen to be watching, Bully, are you, sir, prepared to go on patrol all evening and flick up any comments as they come through, mate?
I certainly am. Jump in. I'll answer what I can while we're chatting, and anything I don't get to, we will try and mop up at the end.
Perfect. I love it. Let's get into games interrogation and deliberation. First up this evening, I will be investigating this because this game has lit me up. I should be clear, it's a demo. It's called Project Tower. It's by a 4-person development team, and this game is speaking to me on the Returnal vibes. It's absolutely nailing everything I loved about Returnal. They've slotted in some fantastic storytelling. Returnal was a little bit ambiguous and a bit vague in its storytelling. Project Tower is doing small cutscenes, 20, 30-second cutscenes. They're not overly intrusive. There's not too many of them. But when they get in there, it's sci-fi at its best. You're a prisoner in a tower. Each level is a different biome, Bully. Do you hear that? There's biomes in the game, mate.
Didn't play that long. Wouldn't know.
The demo consists of 3 playable biomes, and then you just get a sniff of the 4th biome, each one unique, individual, fantastic stuff. I absolutely love it. It's got what you'd expect. There's weapon fire. You get the pistol for the vast majority of the demo. I think the demo in total took me 30 minutes to play through. That includes the cutscenes, which I've cut out of this footage. But you pick up the pistol, you shoot around. By the end of the demo, you don't actually fight any enemies with it, but you do get to the assault rifle. You get to fire the assault rifle. But just as you get the assault rifle, it's then the final cutscene. And thanks very much for playing. We're only 4 people. Please wishlist the game now. That'll obviously help the developers, get a bit more on the investment front. Which will in turn make the game better. And I got to say, Bully, one of the other awesome things about this game is the parkour system. They've just absolutely nailed the beautiful animations as you sort of come in against a box or whatever, you jump over it, go through it. Look at the lighting, look at the God rays coming in. There's, past people that died on the ground. So there's immersive environmental storytelling, if you will. And they tell you a little bit in the cutscenes, as I said, and then, you can piece together, put your detective hat on, and you can piece together a bit more of what's happened. The premise is you're a prisoner, and each biome, Bully, or level, if you will, is a different biome. You play through it. There's a boss at the end, as you'd expect. You finish the level, another cutscene. It's a short cutscene, but it's a fantastic and very fascinating story they're telling. Ultimately, you start on level 1 of the tower, a little bit of cutscene the whole way up, different weapons. You'll see it up here shortly. You get to a point where you get to morph into the enemy. So you're attacking these sort of slug things on the ground now. And then I think it's toward the end of this level, you unlock the ability to, I think they call it transform into those enemies. So you kill them and then you learn how to transform into them. So you become a slug. And then there's like a pit of slugs that if you in human form, try to run across. The slugs devour you. You can't shoot them to death. There's way too many of them, but transform yourself into a slug and you can crawl straight across the other slugs on the other side. Tap L1, boom, you're back to human form, and then you're off to the races and changing again. But it's not just limited to the enemies that you can transform into. Later on, there's like a three-dimensional in-world environmental bit of, oh, look at the bloody, you get to shoot the planks out to get through the walls. Here's the melee weapon you get to pick up. Very Returnal vibes. Instead of the big red lightsaber, it's a blue lightsaber in this. Little health pods, you get to refresh your health. But, you've got your standard duck and roll. You've got your melee attack. And you can transform, as I was saying, it's not just the enemies that you kill that you get to transform into. The puzzle section, the 3D box moving, the boxes are moved by it's like a laser on a monopod, if you will. And you sort of learn how to clone it. And then you get a few rooms over, you clone back into the laser pod, and then you can move the boxes around in the environment to unlock the doors or move it into a section to get up onto a previously inaccessible area. I love everything about this game. As I've indicated a lot, it really lights me up in the way Returnal did. There's obviously third-person over-the-shoulder shooting is the primary function, but then, as I said, in-world environmental challenges. As you kill bugs, you're getting research points. The premise is the alien race that has you captured. You're a prisoner in the tower. You're collecting data for them, so the alien race can learn from your mistakes as a test subject, essentially a rat in a maze. They take that data, and then each level you progress, you're unlocking new skills, you're unlocking new weapons, you're facing bigger, badder weapons. I love everything about this game. The demo's out on PS5 for free. The demo's out on Steam. So if you're a PC player, you can check it out there. This game lights me up. Look at those environments, bullying. I love the lighting. I love the look of it. And as I said, it's only 4 people doing the hard yards on this. So my hat's off to these guys. I think everyone should check it out. If you've got a PS5 or a PC, it's only half an hour to play through. The story speaks to me on a sci-fi level. I love everything about it. I give it 2 massive thumbs up. Now, Bully, I understand you went hands-on with it, mate. What was your take?
I can hear the excitement in your voice, and I have to say, if there is some way to play a game in the complete opposite, everything that you've praised about it, I couldn't stand. I know you mentioned the parkour earlier on. I thought that, I don't know whether, but I suppose probably before I get into it, it's a demo, but is it in a beta state? Because I've had a look at the.
It's very much an early access type.
Yeah, so it released onto Steam as a demo. Looks like in May this year. So we're talking sort of 6 months ago. So I would have sort of hoped that even if it's in that sort of alpha or beta stage, that play testing stage, pending the full release, that some of the bugs would have been ironed out with it. I'm really reluctant to go too hard on it. As you mentioned, it's developed by 4 guys. So hats off to them. If there's 4 blokes that can put anything together, let alone something that's, somewhat semi-playable, as I said, hats off to them. And I don't want to go too hard on them, but in terms of what I was going to say is that the parkour, it's that was the first thing I noticed. It was off. Every time you try to jump over a crate or jump up to a next level, it just had this real janky movement to it. There was quite often I'd try to jump, and it would you'd bang into it rather than sort of catapulting yourself up or vaulting yourself up, and then you go to the next crate and you'd vault up normally. So I don't know whether clipping occurs or whether that hit detection is a little bit off. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I on that point, if I can, as I noticed, I feel like it's the sort of a 10 degrees radius around the corner of any object you're trying to parkour over. If you're just on that sort of 90 degrees off and 10 degrees around that, if you hit it on that angle, the parkour doesn't trigger. But anywhere within the flat edge of it, it nails it beautifully. So as you've already said, man, that's a minor bug. That's a minor tweak. That's something they can absolutely fix. And I just wanted to say as well, the parkour very much reminds me, I'm blanking of the name, Mirror's Edge. The parkour to me felt very Mirror's Edge. Back to you, Bully.
Yeah, look, if they tidy that sort of stuff up, but like I said, if it's, and I get that it's still in that, it's not fully released. It's not in a state to be put out in full to the public and all the rest of it. But it's been out for a while on PC. I would have thought they would have things like that are immediate sort of impact moments for you that occur within the first, minute to 2 minutes of the actual gameplay. I would have thought if you're trying to entice people in to come back to it, wish list it, support the developers, all the rest of it, they're the moments that you really want to hook people in that first couple of minutes. And if you're starting to get that janky sort of thing, as you said, it might just have been that you hit it at the wrong angle or whatever it is, but they're the things that you really need to tidy up to get people into it, excited about it, all the rest of it. In terms of the atmosphere and the setting itself, it was okay, I thought, but you can see on whether as you get further up and like as you said, the different biomes. I didn't hit any of the other areas, but that first sort of area that you play through, it is beyond bland. It's almost back to the PS3, Xbox 360 days of here's 50 shades of brown, and you're going to enjoy every one of those browns.
Did it give you the vibe? Because it is just the first biome that gave me the vibe, but it really, to me, was you're a rat in a cage. You're a test subject. Is that would that be a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah, to a degree. But even within that, you can, there is ways that you can make the environment, I think, look a bit better and a bit more interesting than what it is, because you're just going, as you can see, you're basically going from sort of open area through a tunnel or through a walkway to another open area that looked exactly the same as the last one that you're in, and is going to look exactly the same as the next one you're in. And that's where that sort of thing loses me a little bit. If without sort of getting too far off on a tangent, one of the things that I really love, and it doesn't matter what the game is, if the first level of any game is a setting that's got a lot of green and maybe some of the sea or water effects or whatever it is, that really draws me in. And it's that Mario 64 sort of draw, where that first level, you get dropped out the front of the castle, but then that first level is just there's green of the grass, there's the blue of the sky, it's got all those colors, it draws you in. You can then go into other levels down the track where it's a bit more bland, a bit more bleak, all the rest of it. And I get that may not necessarily fit the setting of this game, but it just doesn't do it any favors when you're just continually going from one area to the next, to the next, to the next, and it's all that bland sort of.
Let me just jump in quickly because you're about to see it. So you've just killed the end boss, and then instantly you learn to morph into the boss, and I think it looks very Aliens. But your entire moveset changes suddenly. Instead of human level sprinting, your giant, alien boss level sprinting, your jump distance has gone from, let's just call it 1 unit to 5 units. You've suddenly can sprint 5 times faster. You can jump 5 times further. Instead of picking up a different weapon, the alien has this fireball that it spits. And you can see there, once you're the alien, you break out of the little sort of maze, rat's maze, if you will, and you're off into, almost, I don't know, let's call it Mars environment, and you get to run around, and now you're absolutely destroying those bugs that sort of in the first 5 minutes were a good challenge with the pistol. You learn to morph into this big, alien bug thing, and then it's just one-shotting everything, and you're doing these massive leaps, and then in a moment you sort of progress out of level 1 of the tower and you're into level 2. Oh, here's the 3D box moving thing you're about to see. Sorry, Billy, back to you. I totally hijacked you.
No, that's all right. I think but that's sort of where I'm at. Like even those little bits with the where you morph into those different things, even to get you in, that could have, for me, hooked you in a little bit more. And you mentioned that area where you morph into the slug and then you go across a pit of slugs and all the rest of it. I think that sort of stuff, especially early on in the game, could have been expanded to be a bit more puzzly, a bit more problem solving as to how you work your way through it, all the rest of it. And that sort of thing grabs you as well. That it gives you a bit of interest that you're not just changing into this slug so you can, in effect, move yourself through a small tunnel or whatever it is. That if you have a few more little aspects to it, a few more interesting mechanics into it, I think that will draw you in a little bit more into the game. So for me, as I said, I probably put maybe 15, 20 minutes into it. I saw pretty much all I needed to see. Now, again, if this changes and they iron out some of the bugs pre the full release, fantastic. I might have another look at it. But as it stands, it was, for mine, pretty generic. sort of game. You know, you mentioned Returnal. It doesn't really like. I can see the aspects of it, but put this next to Returnal, and it's night and day. Like in terms of the environmental setting, the graphical quality, the gameplay, the mechanics, all the rest of it. It's night and day. But and again, you got to look at the size of the studio. So
yes, yeah,
Returnal
absolutely.
developers, massive studio. They've got a heap of previous high quality games behind them. As we've mentioned numerous times, 4 guys in a small studio putting this together. Hats off to them. I hope that they could polish up some of that, make it a little more interesting, get a bit more of a hook into it, and I'll be happy to give it another go just to see how it is. But as it stands in the state that it's currently at, yeah, not really one for me. I wouldn't have thought.
That's totally fair, man. And I know the viewers know I platinum Returnal. Unky and I both platinumed it. It was our game of the year. You fought us on that. Where did Returnal sit for you? Like, Unky and I both gave it 10 out of 10. We absolutely loved it. And that is a large reason as to why I'm enjoying this game so much. But is it not your genre?
Oh, it sort of depends. It's not. It's probably more the setting, and it's probably contradictory to what I just said. But the setting and the environment for me didn't really hook me. The gameplay mechanics were okay, and I enjoyed that sort of thing. I enjoyed the death loop cycle and restarting and all the rest of it. That sort of stuff was interesting. I think it was just the setting in the end that sort of drew it back to me. And I and don't get me wrong, I can see objectively that it's a really good game. It's a fantastic game, and if it was set in a different area or a different setting or whatever it is, again, ultimately that's going to change the entirety of the game. So it doesn't really make sense. But for mine, it just if that was transplanted in a different setting, it probably would have been a lot higher. For me, probably, I don't know, I'd give it maybe 7.5.
Yeah,
8 on a generous day, but that's probably more, as I said, more objectively seeing that it's a great game. It's just not one that's for me.
Yeah, that's fair, man. I think that's what the viewers need to keep in mind. We're talking about a very much Troy game here. This is a gameplay first. You don't have to stop and read anything. It's just game. And Bully, I'd like to point out to you here. So this is the second level boss fight you can see there, but on screen, mate, it's a totally different biome. Can you see? It's like there's a sort of liquid on the floor, a green ooze, if you will, but it looks entirely different to the maze and the Mars setting we saw previously. So this is a good little sampling of that different look, different levels.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from to a degree, but for mine, it's just it's a different shade of brown.
Fair enough, man. Totally fair enough. And the other thing I wanted to circle back on, you pointed out, I think you said it was March it came to Steam.
Yeah.
Whereas this demo came to PS5 right at the end of May. So it was a few months later that ironed out a few bugs on Steam.
Oh, sorry, May 29th it was that it came out on Steam as well.
Oh, my apologies. Then I don't have the date handy for the PS5 release, but it was later. It was a month or two later it came to PS5, excuse me. And so it was a slightly newer build. They fixed some of the bugs in PC land, and then the demo came to PS5 in a better state, which is obviously what you're seeing here. And
just a quick look, I think it would have sometime around mid to late July that it was PS5 bound.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. I might have cut off the final cutscene. No, here it is here. So this is the third biome you get to see in the game, and this is very much more like your Star Wars Outlaws would be the most recent thing, like a sort of lush desert environment. You can see you've got the assault rifle here, and we're about to launch into the final cutscene of the demo, where there's a lot more sort of narrative revealed too, and it sort of really sets up the game, and it's got me in hook, line, and sinker.
It's funny, I'm just looking at this. Put this area first.
That's fair. That's a fair statement, man.
Put this area first, and I get that it probably doesn't fit with the storyline, and you're escaping that mountain, the maze, and all. I get all that. Put that area first. It probably gets me in a little bit more than what it has.
Yeah, totally fair call, man. Anyway, so we don't have a release date yet. I couldn't find any indication as to when this game is expected to launch. As we said, small team, but for me, sign me up. I'm ready day one. I cannot wait to go hands-on with this full release. Bully, has this sort of my explanation here and sort of a look deeper into the demo, has it raised your interest at all, or are you still a pass at this stage?
Still a pass. I'm like I said before, I'm happy to revisit once it does get released and have a look at reviews and recommendations. And obviously it sounds like you're going to play it on release.
100%.
Or fairly close to. So I'd be interested to see how it sort of stacks up in its full commercial release and see where it goes from there. But for mine, that's we talk about backlogs all the time. I'd rather hit my backlog before I hit this.
Fair enough. Speaking of backlogs, let's move on to game 2. Over to you, good sir, for some Suicide Squad action.
Yeah, so I threw this in there because we had, obviously had a bit of a hiatus earlier in the year, and this sort of released to, I guess, probably mixed to poor reviews across the board. So I just thought we'd just take a moment just to sort of go back to it. It's probably funny, and I was talking to you about the before the show, is that it's a period in time that's gaming Christmas. It's massive releases every week. There's heaps and heaps of games that are fantastic to play, but I'm sort of in a loop of 3 or 4 games that I'm just cycling through at the moment that have come out recently that I want to get through those and push through those. So I thought in lieu of recanvassing some of those, we might just jump back to Suicide Squad and maybe get your thoughts on it and sort of give my impressions on it. And I guess it's funny from my point of view, and it's funny that we've just talked about a game that was a demo, because I remember this coming out about 12 months ago as a demo. I think we were lucky enough to get signed up for the pre-release testing as well.
Yeah,
so
yep.
We had a crack at
access.
Yep. Yeah, had a crack at it through that. Had a crack at it on the demo. I was pretty adamant after playing through that for about an hour each time that there was no way I was going to play it at release. Didn't interest me. And then the price fall hit pretty quickly and pretty significantly. And I think I ended up getting the deluxe version at about 70% off retail within a couple of months, within probably six to 8 weeks of the release. So I thought, at that price, all right, I'll jump in, I'll have a look. As I said, I'd heard sort of mixed reviews one way or the other. I actually enjoyed it playing through initially. It's got its problems, don't get me wrong, but playing through it, getting to that open area of Metropolis, and it's a different, without giving too much away to the story, you basically play as the Suicide Squad because the Justice League's gone rogue is probably the best way to play. There's reasoning behind that and story behind that, but that's pretty much where you need to know as to why you're playing as the Suicide Squad. And each of the 4 characters play differently. They control differently. I've sort of found my favorite based on, and actually you can see him on screen there. That's the one I use probably the most. Because of the way he moves around the environment and the way he controls. Some of the others, like they're okay. Like Harley's okay, and I actually enjoyed playing as her early on until you get to that open world area where you need a lot more movement around the environment. I really enjoy.
I was just going to ask you, man. For me, obviously, I played through, as we've discussed. I did not see any, there's arbitrary animation differences, but for me, there was 4 different characters, but I felt they all had the exact same moveset. Would you dispute that?
Oh, 100%. So I'm having a mental blank on their names, but the shark one.
Deadshot. Yeah, Sharky. I don't know his real name.
Old Sharky.
Good old Sharky.
He has more of a pounding sort of so he's got a big jump. That's how he traverses. He does these big jumps, and then you can sort of, and I use an air swim through the air as a sort of extra momentum sort of thing. But then you've got it's Deathstroke on there, isn't it? That we can see at the moment. Deadshot. So he's got the jetpack. So what you can do with him is you can actually use that jetpack to float around, maneuver yourself around the environment. There's a mechanic that you can use to basically do a 50% refuel on the jetpack to get you a little bit further where you need to go, because it has
a limited capacity. An active reload kind of mechanic?
Almost like an active reload. Yes, almost like an active reload. But you can sort of, it's limited, so it will get you, probably 5 seconds worth of movement across the environment. Then it'll start to cut out. You can give it a little boost to give you an extra shot just for another 1 or 2 seconds to, get you where you need to go. But it's actually, they're probably the two biggest different ones. And then you've got Harley Quinn, who sort of uses the Batman style grapple around. So it's more about grappling and movement with the grapple hook as opposed to floating through the air and that sort of stuff. So for mine, that they control really differently, and to the point where old Sharky, I can't stand playing as him.
Mm-hmm.
The other two are okay.
Can I jump in?
Captain Boomerang's all right, but the best one for me is Deadshot, Deadeye, whatever you want to call him.
You've just mentioned him, man. My absolute number one. I've put, I think, only 2 hours into the game. Captain Boomerang, hands down, was my guy. And I'm just going to ask you without notice, mate, why do you reckon I picked him?
Because he's a Aussie. He's Aussie.
The accent, mate. Captain Boomerang. I bloody love it. Playing him, I don't care what he's saying. Anytime he's talking, just hearing that Aussie accent, sign me up. He's my guy. I love it. Sorry, mate. Back to you.
No, that's all right. So I reckon I played through the main story section, and then there's some repeating. It's basically a live service game in essence. So you sort of go back into the worlds in essence to level up, get more get better equipment. It almost becomes a looter shooter at the end to some degree. You get rewards for completing reruns of missions and all the rest of it. That you get better guns and better equipment, etc., etc. Then there's season passes, so you can work through those, and that's for mine. So I reckon I put maybe 30 to 40 hours into the game within that first sort of couple of weeks that I got it. Now, the issue for me is it's a live service game that by default you need to be going back to it on a semi-regular sort of basis to get back into it, play through the season, go through the battle. It's got a battle pass style thing.
Can I ask on that?
Yeah.
Is it the traditional Fortnite style battle pass where it's, 12 weeks and then at the end of the 12 weeks, whatever, and then you've got to re-up? Or is it the Helldivers situation where they've got, I think, 6 or 7 battle passes currently, but they're always active and you can just work on whichever one you want at any time and they never expire? How are they managing it?
So it's basically got a battle pass for the season, and then it restarts at the next season. But the episodic parts and the storyline parts of that season, of each season, you can go back through. So I think it's up to season 4 at the moment. So you can go back and do the storyline for season 2.
Yeah, okay, great.
But that's where the issue lies. So the overworld sort of area it's confusing to work out which, because it all plays out in Arkham, not Arkham, Metropolis, and what it does is it changes some of the missions that you can do within that same map depending on which season you're on. Changing the seasons, I would have thought, okay, say you select season 2 or season 3, season 4, whatever it is, would make everything on that map relate to that season. But it's got parts of season 2 are in the season 4 part. But it doesn't have season 3, but then you go to season 4 and it's got season 3, but it doesn't have season 2. Like, it is an absolute mess trying to navigate it. So, like, for mine, that I as I said, I put quite a bit of time into it. I quite enjoyed playing through it, but then as soon as you put it down, you come back a month later, which I did when they released the next season. I jumped into it again probably a week or 2 ago just to see that new season again. I can't wrap my head around how you progress through these seasons. So
it sounds like, if I may, sounds like they need to take a leaf out of Forza Horizon's book, the way they do the seasons, where you come in and it's spring and everything's new growth, and then you come in and it's summer and everything's the middle of summer, and then you come back and it's autumn and all the trees have fallen, and then you come back the next season and it's winter and there's snow everywhere, but there's no overlap. There's no snow in the bottom left corner of the map and autumn in the top right. Like, it's the same map, but it's totally reskinned, season appropriate. It sounds like that's more like what you're after here.
I don't actually mind the setup of if you missed a season, that you can go back and replay it and go through the storyline and the experience that you missed before so you can almost play catch up with it. I don't mind the theory behind it. The implementation of it is horrendous, confusing. You want to jump in. It's the type of game that really you should be able to jump in, play for half an hour, jump out, all the rest of it. And then a week later you jump back into it again. The problem is you spend the first 20 minutes, half an hour trying to work out, well, hang on, which part am I up to? What have I done? What I haven't done? Because it's not really clear what you haven't done. It's not clear what ones you're repeating because you've already done it, or whether they're a new thing.
Is that to say there's not like a really clear quest log where you can see completed objectives and these are the open quests? Is that sort of not evident?
Yeah, but the problem is it all gets wrapped up in this live service style thing where, as I said, it becomes, once you've done the main storyline, it becomes like a looter shooter. So you can't really work out, well, hang on, have I replayed this one, or have I done this one before? Have I redone it?
Yeah.
I just can't work. Like at one point, I think I replayed the same mission 4 times in a row because I wasn't. Is that the same one I just did, or is that a different one? I can't remember. It's not marked off. Am I in the same area in the map? That's where the issue lies. The gameplay itself, I actually don't mind. Yeah, that's got its problems, but I actually don't mind for the most part. It's a different way of playing through the Arkham universe. The actual storyline, I didn't mind. There's a couple of bits that are a bit generic and a bit ho-hum, but overall the story I didn't mind. It's just that season mechanic and the mission log and all the rest of it. That's just tiring. So, I'd go through it again and probably wanted to get yours and Unky's thoughts. Obviously, Unky's not here, and it doesn't sound like you played much more than the demo.
I've got something to throw at you, mate. Now I'm blanking on this. I'm going to say it was 4 weeks ago. Give me a 2-month window of error there. But it became free on the Epic Games Store. So I own the full version on PC. I could very easily, and you've already talked me into it, mate. I think in the next week, I'm going to do the Let's Install for the PC version of Suicide Squad, and it's cross progression. So I played because it was free somewhere. Was it a free 2-hour trial maybe on PlayStation or Xbox? Because I played through the tutorial of the full release, and I just got into the open Metropolis. Yeah, I got into the open Metropolis, and that's where my 2-hour trial or whatever cut out. So I uninstalled it. However, I'm sure I now own the full game. As I said, I didn't pay for it. It was a free Epic game for a week some time back. So I own it. It's in my library this week. I'm going to reinstall it, and I'll be able to pick it up from as soon as we get into the open world. I'll play as bloody Captain Boomerang, mate. I'll throw a few more hours into it, and we can team up if you want to carry me through some missions, or I can just battle it out on my own. But I'll take a good closer look at exactly what you're saying and try and wrap my head around this season content. And we can, as you've just suggested, revisit it when Unky gets back, because as I understand it, I think he finished the main story campaign. So I'm sure he's got some very in-depth thoughts he'll share with us in a future episode. If that sounds like a winner to you, mate.
Yeah, we can. I'm happy to revisit it. I'll just having a look through the chat there. Sean Games has jumped in there and said he was happy he got it for free on Twitch Prime as part of their free gaming releases. So he's obviously had a bit of a look at it. I don't know what his thoughts are. He hasn't mentioned it. Just said he got it for free. So I suppose you can't argue with free, can you?
No, well, as I said, I'm going to install it on my PC, and it's the full game, so I'll be able to throw some hours at it. We will revisit this game, maybe not next week, but in a very short coming episode, we'll get to it. Bully, let's move on into game 3, unless you had any final thoughts for Suicide Squad.
Hold on.
Right, here we go. Game 3, and it's me. Step back, ladies and gentlemen, because this is ForeVR Bowl or Bowling. They've changed the name in 2 different spots on the PS5 dashboard, depending on where you're looking at it. But this is a PSVR 2 game. The developers sent me the code, so it is the full game you're seeing. Shout out and thank you to the developers for supplying the code to make the install possible. That's available back on the channel. And as I typically do now with the installs, I do the install and then I just capture enough footage to fill in the install time. And I believe it was about a 4-minute hole I need to fix up. So my intent was put on the headset and just play 4 minutes of bowling just for the install. But honestly, I dropped 2 hours into it. That's how much I love this game. It is phenomenal. Off the top of my head, I think there were 6 different bowling alleys or biomes, if you will, Billy. They've got a completely different look and feel. And that's how Troy ended up solo hosting G.E.A.
I hear biomes one more time.
All right, it's off the list. But so you've got the different bowling alleys. You'll see this one here at the start. And so it's your very much traditional bowling alley. We come back to it at the end, and it's the same bowling alley, but it's got the, what do you call it? The black light look. So everything's, glowing, popping, and neon. But shout out to the customization in the balls. I think there's somewhere in the vicinity of 60 different bowling balls. You earn currency in game, and then you jump back to the lobby. You spend the currency, you unlock the different balls. And so you can see there on the left, it's like there's the Earth, and you can pick it up and rotate it and see Australia and everything else. But it's great. There's 3 different I can't remember what they call it now. It's essentially the swing mechanic, the throw mechanic. So there's, it's easy, medium, hard, essentially. Easy is very much guided. You've got to work really hard to try and get a gutter ball in that mode. And then there's sort of their optimum mode, which lets you put a lot of spin on the ball. You can get a gutter ball if you're not doing it too well, but it's, really gives you a sense of accomplishment and achievement, and you can, get the real physical skill up and start to get strikes. And then there's the hardest difficulty mode. And when I flicked it to that, I think every second bowl was a gutter ball. So they've got the different things. Multiplayer is available. I haven't had a chance to check out the multiplayer side of it. Bully, what do you say, mate? Any chance you could put the VR headset on? There's not a whole lot of movement, man. So I don't think you'll get. I don't think you'll be getting motion sickness in this. You're very much just standing still and arcing the arm. So does it seem like something you'd like to put some time in? And how do you feel about real world bowling, Bully?
I actually don't mind real world bowling. It's funny. It's probably something that I wouldn't mind just jumping into, because I think I've mentioned in the past that I reckon the one VR game that I have spent by far and away the most time with is that mini golf game on the PSVR 2. Walkabout mini golf.
Yep.
For some reason, it's a simple premise. It's not. You don't need the fantastic graphics. You don't need this, balls to the wall style gameplay and all the rest of it. It's just simple, easy, basic gameplay, almost to that level of, your Wii Sports, that as simple and as dumbed down as it is, it's actually fun playing it in the VR space. And this sort of, to me, looks that similar sort of thing, whether it's got enough in it to hook me for much longer, but certainly it does have that sort of simplistic, just, whack the headset on, have a couple of games. And like you said, it has that potential to suck you in for an hour or 2 hours at a time. Just keep going. So yeah, I mean, something I'll endeavour to get into, and it's probably, like I said, hopefully it does have that same sort of hook to it.
And look, there's Australia. Fantastic game. So this is the second bowling lane. I think it's called Brooklyn. Might even be called Brooklyn 99. Shout out to that TV show. I love it. But yeah, same mechanics in every one. There's I think the third level's Lunar. And I was hoping I could, in the Lunar, I wanted to just let the ball go. And I was hoping it would do very much like a man walking on the moon, slow, ridiculous arc. But I can confirm the physics for the bowling is the same in every level. But yeah, it's just a different paint of code. And you've absolutely nailed it, Bully. It's very much I think it was the first Wii that did the Wii Sports, wasn't it? Yeah, it must have been. The Wii Sports Bowling. It is just Wii Sports Bowling on steroids. It just looks, because it's in the PSVR 2, it looks phenomenal. No frame hitches, fully immersive experience. If you liked Wii Sports and the bowling in that, it's that, but 10 times better. 2 massive thumbs up for me. I absolutely love this game. Bully, let's set a time and get some multiplayer action in. What do you say?
As long as you don't do what you do when we do multiplayer poker and just shut your eyes and hope for the best. If I get any inkling that that's what you're doing, and I start seeing balls flying off into the roof, then we're going to have problems.
No, because I thought, let's have a little go here. And I was trying to throw, I don't know if you saw it earlier. I sort of glanced around behind me, and it's very much that Wii Sports. It hadn't even occurred to me till you said it, but it's just floating heads and hands, so there is a sense of a crowd. I tried flicking a bowling ball at them, and no action. It doesn't allow for it. So there'll be no shenanigans from my part, mate. We'll just have a straight up game of virtual bowling. And as I said, I threw 2 hours into it, and I think I was pretty good at the end of it. So I think you're up for a challenge.
Well, let's book a date and we'll see how we go.
I love it, mate. Let's kick in a newsroom door, shall we? Oh, that's me doing the wrong thing. Boom, that's what I meant. My bad. Sorry, everyone. Bully, news story one, please.
News story one, and Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which hits tomorrow. And just before we do jump in, I know Sean Games, as I said, is in the chat, and he's very much looking forward to it. For some reason, I'm a bit ho-hum on it this year. I'm not...
Did you play last year's story campaign? Because I was ho-hum on that.
Well, for the 5 minutes that it lasted, yeah. I'm sure once funnily enough, it's one of the few games I probably won't play on the PlayStation this year because it's obviously
Pass.
free on Game Pass. So I've preloaded it up on the Xbox and we'll see how we go from there. But I thought it interesting with all the news stories that have come out this week, and it is a bit of a slow news week, it must be said, even with Xbox doing their partner showcase, which I thought wasn't even worth the YouTube bandwidth upload. But
no,
that's
showcase. I think they could have come up with a different title for that. Shitcase, maybe.
Slow case. I did see that for the second year running, because the way that the Call of Duty is now set up on the PlayStation, it basically operates out of a hub. So each year, it just basically tacks on the extra content into that central hub. So it did that with, obviously had Warzone on there. You had Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 when that released, and then Modern Warfare 3 last year when that release just got thrown into the hub. And then this year with Black Ops 6 being released just into that same hub as well. There's no platinum trophy. So for mine, that knocks it straight off the bat for me. Like if you're trying to weigh up, you're going to play it on Xbox with you got Game Pass, or you're going to play it on PlayStation and fork out the cash, which probably makes Microsoft more money, given that they own the IP now. I would have thought that you would have been, trying to entice PlayStation players, especially if that's the only console they've got that might be interested in trophy hunting or platinums, I should say, that they would, that would entice some people into it. So I can't understand for the second year running why they're going down this path. I assume it's got something in the back end that because one of the games had a platinum trophy, they can't add another one in because of this central hub. I get all that, but surely there's got to be some workaround or some agreement with Sony that you can sort of go, well, let's make an exemption for this because it's such a big game.
Bully, have you got your tinfoil cap there, mate? Because I have the answer to the question you've just posed. It's very tinfoil hat related, but I've got the answer.
I've only got this one for you.
That'll do. So here's conspiracy theory for you, Bully. People love their platinum trophies. I love them. And very much to your point, no platinum trophy. Exactly what they did last year. Shit the bed and then had no desire to clean it up. They just want to lay in the mess. I'll point out to you, Bully, on the Xbox Game Pass, where, the company that own it, guess what? Still got 1,000 gamer score. They are trying to bait people who like their online, gaming reputation. People like, oh, I've got this many platinums, or I've got this many games at the 1,000 gamer score. Play this exact game, tomorrow's release on Xbox, you'll be able to earn 1,000 gamer score. Play it on PlayStation, no platinum trophy for you. That is a very subtle marketing dig, I think, to try and push people to Xbox land. Conspiracy theory, just based on what I'm noticing. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know whether it's probably a combination of the two, to be honest with you. It might be Microsoft trying to push people over to their platform, and combined with the fact that Sony are just being a bit difficult, given that it's an Xbox IP now. They might just be saying, "Nah, we'll bug you. We're not going to do anything to help you out."
No, they're not though, man, because, and I'm totally blanking on it now, but there are, I'm going to say there's 5. I'm pulling that number out my ass, but there's a handful of games in the past that were released without a platinum trophy. And then Colin Moriarty on Sacred Symbols had called it out. What are you guys doing? This game needs a platinum trophy. And then it was a month or two after that, they patched in platinum trophies. It's happened a handful of times. PlayStation can absolutely reverse that decision at the developer's request and add a platinum trophy.
Yeah, but I think that's where I know what you're saying, but I think that's where the problem lies. So you can add trophies in down the track through back and forth with Sony as a developer. What you can't do is you can't add a second platinum trophy to the same game. And essentially what they've done with the way they've set up Call of Duty is it's one game with, in effect, each separate release is essentially DLC, and you can't
I understand what you're saying,
you
mate.
can't throw they won't let you throw a platinum on DLC.
I understand exactly what you're saying. My assertion to you would be, honestly, if you're Sony PlayStation and Activision calls you up and says, we demand a platinum trophy for this year's release of Call of Duty, are you seriously telling me Sony wouldn't readdress that policy? I swear to God they would. If Microsoft insisted, I swear Sony would buckle and go, yeah, all right, fair call. That makes sense. Have a platinum trophy. If Activision wanted to push it, they could. Sony would buckle. But Activision have no interest in facilitating that deep PlayStation long-term gamer investment in their library. So Activision aren't pushing it. So Sony have no interest in revising their policy to facilitate this. It's not.
I see it the other way. I see the other way, that it's not in Sony's interest to do it, because they go, well, buggy, like, this is how you set it up. This is how you want to run it. We're not bending the rules for an Xbox company. They might bend it if it was a Sony first party IP or whatever it is. They might say, okay, all right, no worries, we'll work around it, we'll do it. But we're not bending it. We're not the first time we're going to do this and break the rules or bend the rules or reshape it or whatever it is. We are not doing that for an Xbox IP. So I sort of see it the complete opposite way.
What about
Sony
this?
don't want to do it because they don't want to concede ground to Xbox in any way, shape, or form.
What about this, though? You no longer need PlayStation Plus to play Fortnite online multiplayer. That was a huge concession PlayStation made to Epic, 4 years ago, I want to say. They totally changed their policy. Okay, you can play free online multiplayer games.
Well, it was even worse than that, because they originally they wouldn't do cross-platform play, and then they relented on that.
Yes. So there's precedent here for a big company putting their foot down and Sony relenting and changing their policy. Activision have the power to force that. Activision don't want to do it because they don't want players to be further invested in PlayStation this generation, so next generation will be easier to peel the players off and bring them back to Xbox.
The only thing that I would say to that, though, is that Sony would have looked at it and how much Fortnite was blowing up on all platforms, whether it's PC, console, mobile, and especially in that younger market, where there's a lot of kids that are going to be playing on iPads, or iPhones, or whatever it is, that don't have access to necessarily have access to the latest gen PlayStation console. The amount of money that they were potentially going to cost themselves. So they take the 30% rip off of every sale, which is, obviously Fortnite's free, but every battle pass, every purchase of the V-Bucks through the PlayStation Store, they take the 30% rip off. So if you look at it that way and say, well, if we're not going to do the cross-platform play, but everywhere else is, and people start leaving us to go and play on these other platforms, potentially it might just be Fortnite in the short term, but if you push them over to Xbox, for instance, that might then be a long-term, investment that they're making in the Xbox brand. That's ultimately going to cost them a lot of money down the track. I think it was just a monetary situation that pushed them into that, to say, well, can we stand our ground on this? Yes. And keep the PlayStation gameplay insular within itself, but how much is that going to cost us in the long term? And ultimately, I think that's where it's the dollars and cents that would have changed it. And that's sort of the way I'll see it. I might be completely wrong, but I just think that was a monetary move. And the problem is, and this is why I say I don't think they do it for the Xbox, is because once they did that move with Fortnite, they almost had to do it for everyone else. You can't just gate everyone else off. So, correct. And that's where I go back to, if you bend the rules, the optics of it probably aren't great. That the first people that you break the rule for, or bend the rule, change it, however you want to do it, is for your direct competition in Xbox, who are, let's be honest, they're on the back foot. They're struggling. The sales of consoles are down. They're not making the money anywhere near where Sony are, and they're on the back foot, let's be honest. And if I was at Sony, I'd be going, let's just crush these guys. If we can crush a competitor's console out of the market, whether Xbox end up going software only and then start putting it on Xbox, they get the rip out of it. They're better off financially. You get the Xbox console out of the market. People will come across to the next PlayStation if there's no, next version Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
They make money out of it. So I think it's more just about keeping their foot on the throat of Xbox. And so we are just not relenting anything to you. And we even saw it with, we've got the Lego Horizon that's coming up soon. It's released everywhere else, PC, Switch, obviously the PlayStation. It's getting released everywhere else, but Microsoft, we're not giving it to you. That's the mentality I think they've got at the moment.
That's fair. I think Sony are missing the bloody ball on this one. I think if Sony was smart, they wouldn't even ask Microsoft or wait for Microsoft to ask. They would be proactive and give it a platinum, knowing that that is securing current Call of Duty players, investing them in the long-term PlayStation ecosystem to make it even harder for them to jump to Xbox next generation. But now I'm repeating myself. So let's move on to story 2.
Well, this is probably something that's right up my alley, but I was just flicking through the news the other day and came across this one. I think I'd seen it in the past as a game called The Precinct, which is, I think it's been released on PC, and the console versions are coming up hopefully later this year, or they're slated for, but we're running quickly at a time to have that. But, sorry, the demo was released on Steam. We haven't seen the demo yet on the consoles, but the full game's getting released later this year. Over 100,000 downloads onto Steam within the first couple of days that it got released. And for those that haven't seen it, it's basically the anti-G.E.A. So instead of playing as the criminal and going around doing your missions and creating mayhem and all the rest of it, you play as a police officer, and you've got to go through the town and basically make sure people are abiding by the law. It's got that. It's almost, as you can see on the screen there, it's not quite that top-down original, GTA 1 and 2 that we got in the original PlayStation, but it's not far away from it. To me, it looks really fantastic. I actually can't wait for this to come out. It piqued my interest a little while ago when I saw some gameplay footage of it, and seeing how many times it's been downloaded and the positive feedback that it's getting just from that demo. I'm really excited. Hopefully it does come out this year and we can jump on it. I'm not sure if you've seen or heard anything about it, Troy.
Yeah, no, mate. You put this one in the docket for this evening. So the first time I saw this was a couple of hours ago as I was getting the footage ready for this story right now. But listening to the trailer, watching the footage, sign me up. I love everything about this. Everything to your point, man. It's the anti-GTA. It's the inverse of GTA, but I absolutely love the look and feel of it. I'm keen to know the specifics. I'm blanking on the game title. Was it, what was it, True Crime maybe? There was one of those games where you're playing an undercover cop, and at the end of a mission, you'd get negative impact on your score for breaking things like community damage, like if you broke someone else's car or whatever. So I'd love to know more. Yes, the game looks phenomenal. I love it. It sort of harkens back to me to what was it, Police Quest, I want to say, early 90s PC game.
Oh, that's going back a ways.
Yeah, it's going a ways back, but it reminded me of that. But I love the look of it. I love the concept of it. Sign me up. I'm keen to get into it, and I just want to know more about the gameplay mechanics. What happens at the end of the mission? If you smash into a few cars, are you getting a negative impact on your score? I assume you would start as a rookie and the tutorial mission would be, police academy, so to speak. And then you'd start bully, fill in the blank, mate. What do you start as a fresh-faced police officer? What's your ranking? What are you called?
Oh, just a general duties or, officer, whatever it is.
Officer, there you go. And then I wonder, and I've got no idea, but do you end up, is the highest rung like police commissioner or something?
Well, so that's why I sort of looked at it the other way and said, do you stay on that side of the law the whole time and work your way up, or to become a detective, or do you work your way up, or whatever it is, or is there gameplay elements in it that you can, in essence, twist to the other side? Can you take bribes and
I hadn't even thought about it.
Can you go down that sort of path? It'd be interesting to see. Can you get tied in with a mob or various criminal syndicate groups, and so you end up protecting one while targeting another because it helps out the guys that are paying you. I don't know. I haven't looked that far into the story, and I'm sure they wouldn't give those sort of specifics away before it's released. But certainly that was sort of my take on it, more than just being a law-abiding citizen, good citizen, and working way around solving crimes, etc. Although that we've seen that was fun in
LA Noir.
LA Noir.
Yeah.
That was actually quite enjoyable, just playing on the police side the whole time and working through that. So,
and I loved jumping from like homicide to vice, and I can't remember all the orders and specifics, but I have no idea what they're planning for this game. But there is so much potential for storytelling here, tweaks on gameplay mechanics depending on which division or department or whatever you're working for. I love the look of it. Sign me up. I can't wait. And sorry, you may have said already, do we have a release date for this one?
Don't have a date. It's just all I've been able to find is slated for release before the end of the year, but don't have a specific date. I would have thought, given that we've only got basically 2 months to go, that we'd have a date by now. So hopefully it doesn't end up getting pushed, but it may end up getting pushed. So.
Wrap up the tinfoil cap, mate. Do we have a state of play left? Because I'm seeing it's PS5 here. Is there a state of play arse end of November, early December? Because I would nominate this as early potential for a stealth drop.
You've got we had only one a couple of weeks ago, late September. So I don't know if you have another one, but you've certainly got the Game Awards coming up. It might be a drop.
Oh, there you go. I reckon you picked that like a snotty nose. I'm going to call it early. This will be a Game Awards Jeff Keighley available now on PlayStation 5.
Might even be a Game Pass or PS Plus, stealth drop for the Game Awards.
That'd be cool. Cool. That's where I'll put my money and sign me up. I love everything about it. There's nothing but exciting potential here for however they want to take this. Sign me up. I love it. All right, Bolly, news story 3, please.
News story 3. We've got news that came out. So the Insomniac leaks that came out probably about 12 months ago hinted that there was numerous DLC coming out for last year's release of Spider-Man 2. It looks like they've been canned. So, pretty disappointing from my point of view. I would have thought I think I've said in the past I'm always a bit mixed on DLC if it doesn't come quick enough after the release of the game. But I think with Spider-Man, it's one of those sort of games that it's easy just to jump back into. That doesn't have overly involved mechanics. We all know the story of what's happening, and you can do spin-offs and side bits that don't necessarily have to relate back to the main core story. You can do side missions and all the rest of it. So this probably doesn't fall into that realm so much, but disappointing that they're not dropping any DLC for it. And I would have thought that would have been a surefire money spinner for them. So I'm not sure what their thought process here, whether it just wasn't tracking well, whether they're moving on to the slated Venom game that was potentially coming out. And also I think there was some discussion I heard that potentially Wolverine was coming out next year as well. So whether they're full steam into that and didn't want to, commit resources over to this, not sure.
Can you speak to, did they sell like a season pass or anything? Was there a deluxe edition where people in theory have already bought DLC that's now been cancelled?
No, I don't believe so. There wasn't like a deluxe version or a collector's version or anything like that. That was just, and I don't, to be honest, I'm not sure they actually ever officially announced that there would be DLC. It was just that there was that.
Just the way the story ended was so, we've got more to tell.
Yeah, there was that. And then, I think where it all came out was late last year or early this year, there was a data breach at Insomniac. And as part of that, some of the documentation that was released and leaked out was that there was DLC planned for it. So there was obviously there at some point in the pipeline, just not publicly released. But I think at that point, when that stuff did get leaked, I should say, everyone just assumed, okay, well, it should be coming by the end of the year, but that's quite clearly been squashed.
Crazy. But this game, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this game sold its tits off, didn't it? Like, didn't it make its money back in the first day or whatever?
Oh, 100%. I think, I don't have the official figures, but I would have thought 15, 20 million, no issues.
Yeah. So it's like they've got such a huge install base. It seems like a missed opportunity. But to your earlier point, I'd love to know where they've redirected their resources. And, is it all guns blazing onto the next title? And, good on them. Or does it maybe indicate, Bully, that this will be a Spider-Man 2 Christmas present for PlayStation Plus? Could this be a December game for PlayStation Plus? They've already accepted, well, we're not going to sell it, so we don't want to give the PlayStation Plus and then DLC, so we'll just move the internal development resources to the next game, knowing in a couple of months we're going to hand this one out for free for PlayStation Plus. Merry Christmas, gamers. and everyone just moves on. Maybe that's some
Well,
motivation.
potentially, but they've also got the PC version as well that they were looking at releasing. I think I don't know if it's come out yet or whether it's dropping very shortly by the end of the year. But certainly, they've got that as well. So maybe they just figure, well, we've put the resources into porting over to PC. That'll do us for now. We've made, as I said, 15, 20 million. It's obviously a smash hit. They've well and truly made their money back on it. Maybe they just sort of think, well, and Sony would know from the first game the buy over rate comparative to sales of the base game over to the DLC, and maybe they just look at it and go, well, the percentage of people that are getting into that DLC post-release really isn't worth our time and effort. We're probably better off just putting into a brand new, standalone game, whether it's, as I said, you've got Venom or Wolverine or whatever it is. We're better off just doing that and pumping that out earlier and getting that on track, and we can make a killing on that again as well. Maybe that's just their thought process.
Well, strike me as interested. I can't wait to see what happens next. But Bully, news story 4. This one's been speaking to me. Tell me things.
I knew this would be right up your alley. So Vampire Survivors.
Up my alley. It is my alley.
Vampire Survivors, which obviously came out on Xbox on the Game Pass and also PC last year, along with I think it came to the Switch fairly early on as well. So released on PS5 about 2 months ago, I think, off the top of my head. It's already had a fair bulk of DLC, which is when you talk about DLC packs, they're only a couple of dollars. So, I should say the game's only about $10 odd Australian. So cheap game to start with, cheap DLC, and then we're getting which is quite funny because it's, in many cases, it's an absolute rip-off of Castlevania, let's be honest. But they're getting the official Castlevania DLC coming out next week. That is dropping on the 30th, I believe it is. So it'd be interesting to see.
Halloween.
It'd be interesting to see that come out, and you can see on the screen the characters. You got.
I'm getting excited seeing the gameplay.
You got the Castlevania characters, so I've got no doubt that you'll be jumping back into this one and getting
jumping in. I haven't left. I am 72 hours into my PS5 playthrough of Vampire Survivors. I'm a mere 2 trophies away from the platinum. I don't even remember what the final tally was. 250 gamers, 2,500 gamers score, maybe 3,500 gamers score.
Well, I think there's about 230 odd trophies on the PlayStation. So
I got the whole thing on Xbox, and I think it was around 120 hours for me on Xbox about a year ago, as you said. I'm 72 hours, I think, currently in 2 trophies off the platinum, and just as I'm mopping up the platinum, there's going to be another DLC for me. So I'm all Vampire Survivors. I honestly thought October, spooky month, I was going back to Resident Evil in VR. No, my whole spooky month has been in Vampire Survivors on PS5. I love this game. Gimme. Yes, please. I can't wait.
Well, there you go. So we've got that coming out next week. And talking about things that are upcoming, Troy.
It's over to our new segment, Sean Games. Thanks to your good suggestion last week. We're calling it G.E.A.'s Most Wanted. Bully, what is G.E.A.'s Most Wanted this week?
Well, it was sort of tough to go through because of some of the releases that are coming out over the next week. Obviously, we've spoken about Black Ops 6, which has or is dropping tomorrow, I should say. You've got a couple of games that came out earlier in the week too that drew a little bit of interest for me as well. And I'm just trying to bring it up now. The screen's dropped out. You've got why has it dropped out on me? You've got Ease 10 Nordics coming out. You've got Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, which is a remake with additional content in there that I was somewhat excited about that one, to be honest, as well. There's a couple of other games in there. Kong Survivor Instinct, which, if you're into King Kong, I don't know, I haven't seen much into it. Fae Farm, which was a bit of a almost like your Animal Crossing style game as well. So there's a few still coming out as we're going through the season of releases. But the one for me that drew probably the most interest, probably a bit of an offbeat one, it's called Flint Treasures of Oblivion. It's described or self-described as a as a pirate tactical RPG with a strong narrative. And you can
Is
see
there much reading?
well, it's an RPG. There's always going to be reading, so strap yourself in. But it does have that, almost that classic sort of computer RPG look to it, almost to what we saw with Baldur's Gate. It's got that sort of look. It's got the camera view for it. It's got the graphical stylings of it, and you'll see it come up on screen shortly. But for me, I really love anything set in a pirate setting. It really, when you talk about games, and we spoke about that with the first one, the setting, if the setting's right, it gets me in straight away. And if the gameplay is not quite there, I can get over it a little bit while you're getting into that setting and you work things out, or maybe the story's not quite there. But if the setting's there, it gets me in pretty quickly. So it's got that combination of Baldur's Gate. It's got the pirate setting. It's, to me, it looks really good. It's tactical. I don't know why. And I'll probably get put up on a pike for it. But for me, I've got more interest in this coming out than I do Black Ops 6. So,
what's the price there, mate? Do you happen to know?
Well, I got the physical version it's on the way, so I haven't got it delivered yet. Hopefully, I'll get it very shortly. But the physical version was 50 Australian, so you convert that over, it's probably about 30 odd US.
Yep.
For it, so not the most expensive game in the world, a cheaper sort of release, and as I said, the setting strikes me, so it's got me, and it's probably got me over Black Ops 6, much to some people's disgust, I would imagine.
Black Ops, what was it? Modern Warfare 3 shit the bed last year, so I still remember the stink on that game. I'm with you, mate. Sign me up for some Flint. And sorry to give this one without notice, but it's also reminding me, it's got that isometric view in the pirate game. What was the one last year, I want to say, or maybe only 8 months ago? You played it. I only got
Shadow Gambit.
Shadow Gambit, that's right. It looks like that. And I love the setting there, mate. So I'm right there with you. Love my Baldur's Gate 3. Love pirates. Sign me up. I agree with you completely. This is this week's most wanted. In your face, Call of Duty without your bloody platinum. What are you guys doing? Sony, get your act together. This is crazy. But that'll do it for this week's. That's the new releases. Bully, over to that there YouTube chat. Please, my friend, go on patrol. Tell us.
I have been on patrol and back and forth with a few of the guys in there. We have had Sean Games, as I mentioned earlier. We had a new person jump into the chat that I haven't seen before. Sonic Hub that jumped in there. So thanks for joining in. Don't be scared to jump in there and join the chat and get involved with that as well. We did have Unky jump in there and he wanted to throw his update in there, so I'll give that to you. He's finished Space Marine 2,
nice.
Gave it an 8.5 out of 10, finished Astrobot 9.5 out of 10. He didn't mention whether he got the platinum or not. I would have hoped he did.
Certainly should have.
Metaphor, he's 20 hours into, which is pretty much where I'm about. 10 out of 10, I agree with him. And he's got the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign installed and ready to go for tomorrow, which was steaming. And I use this term loosely, steaming Sean Games a little bit, because he got the Steam version that he's can't play until later in the day for some reason.
Oh, because they're doing the midnight US release, whereas Xbox is doing midnight Australia?
Yeah, I think that's the way it works. So luckily he does have it on Game Pass as well, so we'll jump into that. But it was tells me he can't play it on keyboard. Oh, sorry, struggles to play it on controller. He needs a keyboard and mouse, so that's why he went with the PC version.
That's fair. Back in the day, first-person shooters had to be keyboard, mouse, and the old man hands kicked in, and now I can only do it on a controller.
Yeah, so I think he's going to jump on the Xbox when it does release, get his toes wet into that one, and then jump across to the PC. And I'll finish off with Tigara that jumped in there. We were talking about the progression, I guess you'd call it, through the precinct, and whether you climb the ranks and what you do. And I'll throw this out there for those that know LSC for life. And that's what Tigara has got to say. I won't go any further into that.
Straight over my head and into the arrow. No idea, but good on you, Tigara. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Bully, one final question for me. You said Unky Dunky was in the chat. Has he defended his position on making us late each and every episode?
He was probably late for the chat and missed it, so no.
Excellent work. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are off due. Bully, fantastic work holding up the empty second slot for Bully and co-hosting with me all evening, mate. Top effort. Thank you very much, sir.
Pleasure as always, and I've got these broad shoulders for a reason, is to keep Unky up and afloat.
Great work. We're done. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Bully, final question. What else could you do with Geek Aloud?
Like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something. Oh!
Fire splash!
Old Uncle Donkey.
Donkey.